and that everyone out there can hear us. We're live?
We are?
Yep. We're
Oh,
live.
cool. Come on, I'll see it yet.
Because it just went live, probably.
Oh, there it is. Yay.
Okay, cool. Well, welcome to episode 11. We're just going to wait one moment here whilst our moderators tell us that everything's functioning across the internet pipe-wise. Though, I'm going to assume they are because Nicholas said he could see.
Pretend to be an English expert for work and stuff, or I used to at least. But I really don't know the difference between while and whilst. Luckily, no one has required me to use whilst in a book or anything so far.
Okay, so that's another question, though. Do you pronounce it whilst or whilst?
I think I would say whilst, although it looks like whilst if you spell it out, but nothing looks how it spells because of orthographic depth or whatever in English not being good.
Says the non-English expert. Throwing out words like orthographic depth.
Oh, yeah. But I only learned that word because I was trying to teach why it's easy to learn to pronounce Japanese. Because you can guess pretty closely how it's pronounced once you can read it.
Right. Yeah, because it has shallow orthographic depth.
Unlike something like French, or English. Like you read the word and you don't know how to say it.
Yeah. Wow, especially in
Even though
English.
Even though we teach phonics in school for English, but then,
I feel like a lot of kids don't actually get phonics in school for English. I don't know. I've run into kids.
Oh yeah, maybe they don't anymore. I did, but
yeah.
I guess I went to a private little school when I was a kid, so
same. Although I wasn't a private school, it was like an unschooling, homeschooling sort of situation. We talked about that once before.
We did. I think in the last episode we talked about it.
2 episodes ago we talked about that. And that's the one that so many of you lovely listeners sent me a message on Discord or Twitter or email, and that was awesome. I really enjoyed the feedback from that episode and talking to everyone. On that note, hello and welcome to the NativShark Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb, brought to you with co-host Nicholas. Today, we're talking about new units because they got released.
Yeah.
And a couple other things. This one might be a bit of a shorter episode. We're going to see what happens here. And yeah, okay. I'll take a second to maybe see if there's anything in chat. Let's say we have Cell Talk saying, Twitch, we should just get taught the phonetic alphabet so that we know how to pronounce things from dictionaries. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. We should just all learn IPA.
Honestly, though.
They should also make it easier to type it on a computer. Like, can I install like a keyboard the same way I do for Japanese that lets me type IPA? Because I should do that.
Yes, actually you can. And I can link you after this if you want to actually install it.
Well, maybe later. I'm trying to teach myself to type Thai actually right now. So after I learn to type Thai, I'll learn to type IPA. And then I'll just be typing all the things.
Wait, is this note that I see where you say Niko is studying Thai 5 minutes per week?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I'm making custom flashcards with Thai.
And you're uncovering
them.
You're uncovering all the ways you want to have our custom flashcards changed, is what you mean.
Yeah, that too. I mean, that's part of why I'm making custom flashcards, is I want to take notes on how we should make them the greatest flashcards around.
Yeah, they should be. There's no reason why not.
Yeah, we really need to get audio being a thing. Like, you can upload your own audio, because Thai flashcards are kind of pointless if I don't have audio for them.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, we should.
Speaking of orthographic depth, man, I mean, Thai is not written consistently at all.
Okay, I might be wrong about Thai, but isn't it one of those languages that they sort of just put a script on because they needed one? Or have they had one?
So, yeah.
Okay. It's like an adapted form of Sanskrit or something.
It's an ancient one, but I don't think it's Sanskrit. I forget what it is.
But I'm pretty sure that's what it is, right?
Here's what Thai letters look like. If I can hold that.
Will it focus?
It's not going to focus because my camera is not autofocused.
Ah.
So you're not going to see what Thai letters look like.
I briefly saw it. Maybe I'll Google it. Hold on. I got you.
They're really beautiful letters. I love the way Thai looks written.
Thai characters. Okay, I'm gonna get this. We're gonna see him.
There's lots of like
All right. I put it right over
arches
Nico's
and
face.
smooth lines.
Now you guys can see these are
What?
Thai characters. Here we go. Lots of arches.
Yeah.
Yep. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. Thai. So I bought this book at the bookstore the other day, and it's like a phrase book, and it is pretty hard to find a phrase book that I like because, as you might have guessed, I'm pretty picky when it comes to language learning.
Yeah.
This one's not bad though because it has dialogues, which is the closest thing I'm going to get to context in a phrase book.
Yep.
And because context is everything. And there's like an A-B conversation, and then there's the translation of it in Japanese because I bought it in Japan. So I guess I'm learning Thai from Japanese.
How's that going?
And I'm just having, well, I mean, it's whatever.
Yeah.
Same as learning it from English, I guess. When I study Korean, I always try to look for resources in Japanese because the languages are really similar compared to English.
That makes a lot of sense.
So they're just better in, if you look at Korean learning resources in Japanese, they're just downright way better and easier to understand. But for Thai, yeah, I don't really know because I don't know that much about it, but I'm having fun learning to type it, and then we'll see where that goes.
So are you just doing it because like you're kind of like, I want something to do that's not working or vibing? Like, what's your motivation?
I just really want to learn Thai, and like I'm tired of waiting for NativShark to release Thai language, and I know it's not the next one. So
yeah, that's fair.
I'm just gonna study it a little bit and then have fun with it. And I don't know why, but like I did something similar when I started learning Korean, and learning to type Korean just made me really happy. Like I could look up words that I wanted to look up.
Right.
And it's actually a lot harder to learn to type, Korean or Thai than it is Japanese because you can just sound out the Japanese words with English letters when you type. But in a language like Korean, it's like the letter is a different character when you're typing. You don't just sound it out in English. And it's the same with Thai. The keyboard, the keys are different characters.
Gotcha.
So my new desktop wallpaper is the Thai keyboard layout so that I know which keys to type when I'm trying to type
okay.
characters.
Nice.
And yeah, I'm just doing that and having fun playing with custom flashcards.
Honestly, sounds
I honestly have no goal in mind other than that. It's just something that I find is fun to do.
Yeah, no, it sounds good, and
I'll start being serious once we actually teach Thai, I think.
Yeah, which might be a minute, but we'll get there.
Are you studying anything right now?
Yeah, I'm studying development, and I'm reading this book for fun. It's called Computer Science Distilled. I'm reading it. This isn't related to that of learning development. You can like learn development without caring about computer science really, but I went to school for computer science, and it's fun to like. This is like a refresher sort of book. It's like all condensed into like a book of this size, and it's actually really good, and it's a lot of fun to kind of like go back over this shit. And I love state machines and search trees and those sorts of
I've heard you talk about
and those sorts of algorithms. And that there's a chapter halfway through the book that's entirely on that. It's just called Data, and I'm super pumped for it. It has dope diagrams like this, and this is a diagram of the spread of languages in Europe built into a tree diagram. So Yeah, it's Proto-Indo-European, and it's like level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3, just like, you know, as it be the layers of the tree. So, yeah, I love that stuff. Cell Talk says, I don't know if I've ever heard someone say they love those things. What do you mean? What? I don't know what to tell you, man. I really enjoy that stuff. Yeah, it's fun. So that's what I'm reading in my kind of like spare time, I guess. There's another book I'm reading too called Thinking Fast and Slow, but I'm only like in the first
Yeah, I've heard of
chapter.
that book.
But actually, it's kind of, even in the first chapter, my mind is already kind of like, damn, this is good. So I'm excited for that one. But I'm reading that one at a bit of a slower pace than I'm reading uh, the other one. So
I I never finish nonfiction books. I read like the first 35 to 40% and then I'm done.
it's funny.
Well, don't you feel that you just get it after a while and then they're just going on and on about examples and things after that?
Depends on the book. But yeah,
Or yeah.
I know what you mean. If it's kind of like, if it's self-help adjacent or self-help, then 100%. Like finishing those can be difficult after about 75% through. But if it's something like the computer science distilled, then like every chapter is literally like, it's like learning something. It's like, so it's different than that. But I know what you mean. Though in 2020, I was like trying to finish books that I started, and I did actually manage to finish 3 books, which is kind of cool. Not as many as I would have liked to, but not as many as I started, but I finished 3.
Yeah, I don't even know how many books I finished, but I know that I read about half of a large number in the last year.
Mm,
Also, I never read one book at a time.
yeah, me
Because I read
either.
one fiction book at a time, but then I also read like 5 nonfiction books at a time.
Wait, are you actually reading a fiction book right now?
Yeah, I'm always reading a fiction book, one at a time. Right now, I'm reading
Wow.
A Little Life by Anya Yagikara, which is definitely the most depressing book I've ever read in my life. It's
Damn.
so depressing.
How does it make you feel?
It's sad.
Sad. I'm not reading any fiction books at the moment, but I kind of wish that I was. So I'm gonna think about that. Hmm.
I think I learn more from fiction books than I do from nonfiction.
I love fiction. Give me some high fantasy and space operas, says Cell Talks.
Yeah,
Yes.
me and Celtox probably read all the same books,
Honestly, you probably do.
except for when I'm reading some depressing book because I majored in English in college and I gotta continue depressing myself when I read every now and then.
Of course.
Also, because that's what Ray usually reads, and then she wants me to read the same book so we can talk about them.
Mm.
That's why I'm reading A Little Life and getting depressed.
Perfect. That's exactly what you need.
It's a good book, but
Yeah.
it's just oh man, it's heavy.
Okay, so heard of or read the book Flowers for Algernon?
Yeah,
Okay, that book. I read that in like middle
in
school.
middle
Dude,
school. Yep, everyone
it
does.
broke me, dude. Most of my other friends were like, okay, whatever. They like didn't hardly read that book, but I read that book and I absorbed that book and it broke me. It's like a good book, but it's really depressing. Oh my god, dude. Man, what a time. I didn't want to hear about the what it was like to be have mental challenges in this 1960s. But that's what that book was about.
When I was in 5th grade, I was trying to talk about people who have, I guess you'd say like, I don't know what you even call it, what the PC term is now. Like, do you say like mentally handicapped or neurodiverse, something like that?
Mm.
But I was in 5th grade and I was trying to say something about them to my teacher. And I said mentally challenged because that's what I'd heard people say.
Uh
And she yelled at me. It was like, don't say that. Like, you say like mentally handicapped or something.
mm.
I was like 11 years old, so I was just say like I
Yeah,
was trying
man.
to say it in the nice way, so like I really wish you wouldn't yell at me.
Honestly,
You could
me
just teach
too.
me a better way to say it.
And if I did use the incorrect term, someone please let me know because it's not on purpose. I don't mean to cause any offense, and I will happily use a different term if there is a more applicable term.
Yeah, so I've been super obsessed with reading about schooling lately and unschooling also. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of my nonfiction craze right now.
Right.
And I was listening to a podcast about it, and they were talking about um, schooling, unschooling, and homeschooling for what they called neurodiverse children.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really interesting discussion, but the whole time I was wondering, like, what do they mean by neurodiverse? Like, does it mean someone like on the autism spectrum? Does it mean
Mm.
someone with, like Down syndrome? Does it mean, what does it mean?
Right.
But I could have just gone and Googled it, but I didn't.
Did they not? Okay. That makes
Just
me
make
laugh.
myself look like a fool on the podcast
Yeah,
instead of Googling
classic,
it.
classic Nico. Um, so they didn't define what they meant with that term.
No, they just assumed that I would,
That you
I don't know, look it up or
you would know, or
something or
you'd look it
no.
up. Well, someone will likely
But that's
inform
the
us.
thing, right? So when you're super close to a topic, you start to make assumptions about what people do and do not know about it.
Mm.
This is actually a really difficult thing for us teaching content right now, even.
Right.
Like, for example, we have a field in for a note for on a sentence. We call them translators notes internally. And so we tell translators, like, just put a note there if you think, a student needs it. Like,
Mm.
because yeah, our translations will be the natural way to say something in English based on the Japanese. Then you also have the literal breakdown, but sometimes you still need to add like a little bit more. And what we found is that standardizing when you do or do not include a translator's note is really difficult. And we have yet to come to find out how to do it because, like, on the one hand, we have a translator who just pretty much never writes them. On the
Mm.
other one, we have them writing way too many and way too much. Like it's like
It's
they'll like
overkill.
translate a sentence, and now we're the note has something about like the history of some phrase in Japanese or like in Japanese culture XYZ, and it's like, well, that's not really relevant to the translation. That's like something we might put in a deep book or a writer's note, but it's not really relative to the sentence to talk about
Yeah.
Japanese culture when you're translating this sentence.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it's hard to do. Hard to standardize, I should say.
Right.
And that's kind of been my thing lately because, as you may have known, like new units have started coming out again, phase 2 units. And right now I'm writing all the lessons.
Big hype there.
But yeah, but while I write the lessons, I'm writing these instructions for other people to write them, which means trying to come up with how do you write them. And every day I'll write something, and then Ray is always sitting next to me, and I'll point at something I wrote and be like, how would someone else know to write that based on like the materials I was given? And then we both just sort of stare blankly at the screen for a minute, and then
Yeah.
try to think of a better way to organize things so that students get good lessons, even if other people are writing them that are not sitting next to the content architect.
Mm. Let's see. We have. Is that where we get notes like this is basically that phrase that you'll use in X situation because there's some historical reason behind it which isn't relevant?
Yeah, I mean, set phrases is one. Um, there was a great example of this just yesterday, and now I'm not remembering what it was. But yeah, set phrases, or sometimes if we want to point out that the real nuance of the Japanese is just impossible to capture in the English translation,
Mm.
then we would put that in a translator's note also,
Right.
which, yeah, happens a lot with Japanese, as you can imagine.
Yes, it does. There's not much crossover between the two languages. Um, it's a meme that Japanese has become in English because of all the loan words. But honestly, there's that's it. It's the only crossover you get is that they take words, and then they mush them into Japanese, and they usually mean something, some variation of what that thing meant in English, but never really exactly the same thing. But besides that, yeah, the translating between the two languages is kind of wild because there's, not much similarity.
Yeah. Although that's why it's interesting, to me at least.
Also, I saw the follow. Thank you for the follow, Aardvark and thanks for the subscription to our Twitch channel. Wow, thank you so much. I believe I've seen you in the Discord as well. So welcome to the stream. Welcome to the podcast. Just chatting about. I don't really know what we're chatting about today. All the things. We're kind of just going off. I don't know.
We're all over
the place today. That's just the episode, I guess.
We're going to talk about units because that's what's going on.
Right.
But before we do, there's something more serious to talk about, which is I need to know, Caleb, how you feel about sarueru pantsu.
Sarueru pantsu. Man, I really enjoy sarueru pantsu.
What are sarueru pantsu?
That's the real question here. I don't know how to describe them. So I'm literally gonna look them up.
You're googling. What are
I'm not gonna try to describe these. I'm just gonna show.
If you type it in Google, I think it shows the English word that it came from. No, it doesn't. Never mind. I don't know what.
I got us, dude. Don't you worry.
Oh, cool.
It's gonna take me a second though because actually these Google image results are pretty bad. Wow.
That's what happens.
I just type in sarueru pantsu and it's like, what? Okay.
Yeah, but some people are listening, so you really do need to describe them because not everyone's going to be watching.
Okay, well, you're right about that. But for right now, people are likely watching. Okay, there we go. This is our sarueru pantsu. So
I need to see this.
They are
pants
that are like, I don't know, sort of like maybe you call it like an Arabian sort of style perhaps, where they are very like deep cut in the crotch area, I guess, and there's a lot of space. They're very flowy. It's like almost a dress but not quite because there still are legs, and they're like unisex, that can be male or female, and they're super comfy and very breezy and very light, and I enjoy wearing them. Yes. Hopefully that was a good enough description.
The English word it looks like is saru. I don't know how to say it. Sirwal.
Sirwal
is the Wikipedia entry. Sirwal. Sirwal, also Sarwal. Looks like it comes from Arabic, Persian, Kurdish. I don't know. It's got all these different words in it.
That sounds about right to me. As to like how to describe the style. They're kind of popular in Japan, like as just streetwear.
Yeah, apparently they're a subtype of harem pants, a form of baggy trousers predating the Christian era.
Okay. That sounds great.
So everyone's like, what do you guys?
I'll take
parachute pants. Thank you, Cell Talks.
Yeah, they're like parachute pants.
And we love them.
Yeah, and we're talking about them because we love them, and that's what Niko's wearing right now.
I am. But I don't know if you can see him. Maybe if I stand up, you can see.
Let's see him. Let's see the pants.
Yeah, they're like these baggy.
There we go.
Pants.
Yeah, perfect. Yes, absolutely wonderful. Deluxe.
And I don't use them for fashion so much as for comfort. What in Japanese we would call roomwear. So roomwear.
Yeah, I'm also wearing roomwear.
Sweatpants are too hot. I get too hot when I wear sweatpants, but these are nice and comfy and airy. So
we've got Deluxe Troyer from YouTube saying it comes from Arabic, which is great. We kind of eventually figured that out. Thanks for the clarification there. And then Voxside says they look nice, and let me tell you, they are.
Hey.
You should wear some.
They're cheap too.
Dope pants. Hell yeah. I love how we derailed our podcast by talking about pants.
Well, we can talk about Japanese a little bit, because every time I hear the word sarueru pantsu, I just think like monkey L pants.
Oh, sarueru, because
yeah, because saru is monkey in Japanese, and then eru is like the way they pronounce the letter L. So I think of monkey L pants as my sarueru pants.
That's amazing. Yeah. I thought about that like the first time, but then now that I know what they are, like the first time you said like saru el pants, I was like, what about monkeys wearing underwear? Because like pants is underwear, right? It's not pants. So I was
Yeah.
real confused the first time when I heard the Japanese word for it, but
So Josh said, I wonder what other crazy fashion you can get away with when you live in Japan. And I kind of agree with him. I think that I wear clothes that I would feel a little bit uncomfortable wearing in the US, for example. The other day I went to the park with my son and I was wearing like my Sara pants and then this sweatshirt that like goes down like past my waist really far and like
oh
this
yeah.
this really like this jean jacket that was falling into pieces and I looked kind of ridiculous and I had like sport shoes on. I looked pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then I sort of looked down and I thought, I really don't think I could wear this in the US without a friend or family member being like, what the hell are you wearing?
Right.
No one says that to me in Japan.
Well, not only that, but there are people who wear that like those mixed styles to be like, this is my fashion. I know you're not doing it for fashion, but like people do, and it's kind of great. I like it.
Yeah, my main concern is to match the temperature of my body to the environment in a way that is comfortable.
I mean, you're always quite practical when it comes to those things, so it makes sense. I'm wearing one of those sweatshirts that goes like way past your waist, like right now. So,
Yeah.
yep.
Looks extra weird if you do it with your Sara pants also.
I was doing that
You just become
yesterday.
a mix of just
Okay, listen.
rags hanging off your body.
Right, so I was wearing that, and then like I was walking through the Hakata Eki the other day. Not while I was wearing that same outfit. I was wearing like a I don't know normal like business casual outfit. I was going to the office or something, and I saw a man walking through the Eki that was wearing like that exact same thing. He had side pants on, he had sandals on, and he had a really baggy sweatshirt, and his hair was like a really like cool like the like Japanese style with like the side, and he had like some
He
like
probably permed it or
yeah, he had like
something.
some piercings, and I was like, so I don't have the piercings, but besides that, I almost look as cool as him. So it's a thing. Guy looked dope. He had really nice looking sandals though. I don't have sandals that cool. They were like the leather kind of ones.
Yeah, I've noticed that guys who wear Sara panza in Japan often wear these like fancy leather sandals.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a
It's just a
thing. It's like
thing.
a set. You have to wear them together.
Keep telling yourself you look that cool. No, I'm telling you that I don't look that cool, and I know it. It's totally fine. It's okay. I'm never gonna look as cool
I
as that
have
man.
I have
Thanks
this
for the
sweatshirt
follow.
that's falling. It's just in rags. It's falling apart, and like the sleeve was like coming off, so I just cut off a piece of it, and like it's you can almost see through it. It's so ragged now.
Yeah.
And my the reason I love this sweatshirt so much is that Ray's mom gets really mad at me when I wear it.
that's
She
that's a good
she
thing.
she yeah, she told me I look like a homeless person. And she was like, "Why are you wearing that? Like someone on the street is gonna give you money or something because you look like you're homeless." Like, oh, cool. I need money. I would take a coin for looking homeless.
God damn it, Nico.
And so I had like a big hole in one of my sweatshirts, and I asked her to sew it for me because she's my Japan mom. So when I have a hole in my clothes, I ask her to sew it.
That's
And
nice.
then it like started her out on her rant
Her
of like why
tirade.
I need to stop wearing clothes that have holes in them. I was like, this sweatshirt's not even that old. It just ripped.
Goodness, Nico, you are a growing man. You're getting to that age of life where maybe you can't wear all these sweaters as much. God damn.
I'm like in my mid 30s, and then I was like, whoa, I'm gonna be like a 40-year-old man who's dressed like not a 40-year-old man, not my mental image of a 40-year-old
Right.
man.
You're going to be dressing like you're still in your mid 20s, but you're going to be 40, and then you're just going to be one of those guys. Oh no.
I was like more professionally dressed in my mid 20s
Yeah.
because I worked at like an
Honestly, you were.
English school and I had to wear a tie and suit and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to read through chat a bit.
Yeah,
See if
'cause we've
there's
just
anything
been
interesting. We've just
going
been
on
going
about.
off again. Um, you definitely wouldn't wear stuff in the US that I wear in Japan. Yeah, for sure. And then the Stony the cat asked Nico, "What is your favorite Japanese word? Do you have one, or do you not think about that?"
Favorite Japanese word?
Also, what's your favorite English word? Just for balance, if you have such a thing.
Um, I don't know. my favorite English word. My favorite Japanese word used to be chokochoi. I'm trying to spell it. Oh,
Chokochoi.
chokochoi. Yeah, it means like clumsy. Joy. It just sounds clumsy, right?
I'm just
Um,
totally got a flashback to when we tried to have a podcast like 3 years ago and failed, and that was a question that we answered. And you said the same thing. Man's
I
consistent.
said chokochoi.
Yeah. Just
Oh, no
I was like
way.
deja vu. Shout out to the
Yeah, I'm trying to look
Sharkcast, which doesn't exist anymore, but
Yeah,
that
so it
wild.
is. chokochoi says it's ochitsuite kangaenai de karugarishiku koudou suru koto. That's not what I thought of as clumsy. Okay.
Okay.
Matasu no sama ya soyu hito. So it's like a person who doesn't think calmly and behaves rashly, or such a state, or that type of person. But yeah, it means like clumsy,
If you look it up on
careless
YouTube,
person, scatterbrain, bird brain is like what they say.
if you look it up on YouTube, you will see examples. But I'm not going to play any of them on stream. But
yeah, and I said ochokochoi, and then the dictionary is saying that that's a commonly mispronounced form of ochokochoi, which is like the little tsu before the cho, but whatever. But I think actually I want to say that that's not anymore, and I want to switch to bimbo yusuri.
Okay, so I don't want to like freak you out or anything, but you said the same thing last podcast when we went on about bimbo yusuri. That was
We talked about that with Alex.
with Alex.
That one time,
yep,
right?
that's right. Oh my god.
Yeah, because
repeating ourselves.
Yeah, bimbo yusuri is like shaking or tapping your foot, like
that's a good one.
fidgeting
That's a good one.
of your legs. And the reason it's a cool word is that bimbo means poor person or poor, and then yusuri means I don't know.
Yusuri
shaking,
is shaking,
like shaking, jolting. So like the poor person shakes is when you tap your leg all the time. My roommate in college did that a lot.
Yeah, I do that sometimes. Jacob does that a lot. He's calling this man out.
Yeah, he has the poor person shakes. Well, what's your favorite Japanese word?
Bro, I don't know. Honestly, I was thinking I give you a favorite English word. I really like the word serendipity.
Nice.
Yeah. Serendipity. How do you define serendipity?
I don't know. Fate, destiny, in a good way.
The occurrence and development of events by chance in a happy or beneficial way is what the Google, actually not Google, it's what Bing says. Why am I using Bing? Anyway.
I was pretty close.
You're close. Yeah, I don't know. I like the word. I like what it means. I like how it sounds. It's fun to say. It sounds even more funny when you make it plural. You can say serendipities.
Yeah.
What a word. Serendipities. Yeah. Best Japanese word is nomi hodai. Is what Seltog says. All right. He's right.
Okay, so actually, I'm gonna switch my favorite word again.
Okay, third time.
Okay, do you know who Fuwa-chan is? Fuwa-chan. She's
I do not.
She's a famous YouTuber who became so famous in Japan that she's on TV and stuff now.
Okay.
And she's a very eccentric person. And she has this way of pronouncing words where she like aspirates them a little extra. So like instead of saying mite, like look, mite, she says mite, and it's like mite, like te. And
yes, okay.
now,
I just looked her up.
Okay, now Ray has been like saying it like that just because. And then they was doing the voice acting for one of the dialogues coming up in phase 2 because a lot of reasons that she was doing some of the recordings, but the character like was just perfect for that pronunciation of mite. And she did it, and I was like, yeah. And she was like, oh, I should probably change that, huh? And I was like, no, don't change it because people do say it like that sometimes. and it's perfect for this character.
That's funny.
Mita.
Mita.
I can't do it as well as her. She does it really well.
I love it.
Yeah, if you look up Fuachan, it's like there'll be pictures of her. She's always wearing bright colors, and
that feel when Niko's favorite word in Japanese isn't izakaya, is what Ty says in Twitch chat, which is a meme that goes back to a couple years ago, wherein Nicholas always wrote articles on NihongoShark about izakayas, and it was brought up a lot in NDLs, and so everyone just thought that Niko was a crazed izakaya lover, when in reality
I do love izakaya.
He may love izakaya, but it might not be quite as much as it seemed that was the case. So the meme is that his favorite word is izakaya, but it's not, apparently.
I was reading an old NihongoShark lesson this morning because I was writing a lesson for NativShark on a grammar point that we've taught before on NihongoShark. So I wanted to go compare how I used to teach it to how I'm teaching it now.
Yeah.
And there's just no filter on the silliness on NihongoShark.
Dude, it just kind of went in.
And on the one hand, the lesson was like making me smile and laugh, but on the other hand, it was just like so long because of like all of these tangents. And
yeah, for sure.
And instead of saying like something's like pretty simple, I said like simple dimples, and then I put a picture of some little girl with dimples in the lesson.
Oh, we love to hear it. Yeah. Speaking of NihongoShark lessons, someday we got to get those uploaded somewhere that's more easily accessible. Although a bird told me that you can still find them on NihongoShark.com if you go sign into NihongoShark, the old HJS, still there. But yeah, it'd be cool to get some of them transferred so they are like non-path legacy content or something like that. Would be dope.
I need to go back to answer Josh's question because he said, what I was telling my team at work about Nico's method of training the contractors by updating the instructions when they make a mistake. I think we can learn from that even though we're building a design system. But how do you get people to read the instructions in the first place? And then he laughs. And Ed, yes is the answer. I know exactly what you're talking about. People just don't read instructions. And it sounds really bad, but we fire a lot of freelancers for not following instructions. I always give them at least a second chance, and very often a third or fourth chance, in which I say, like, please go back and reread the instructions multiple times, please. And then if they don't, if they're obviously not reading the instructions, then we'll just end the contract and find someone who does read the instructions, because it just costs us too much time when they don't follow instructions.
When it comes to like short-term freelance contracts that can become long-term if it's a good fit, it's much easier and more beneficial to just end the contract. So because there will always be somebody who will read the instructions.
Yeah, and then once you get those people that do read them, you realize how much better life is.
Yep. So in the case of Josh, where it might be that he is on a team and it's everyone's full-time employees and that's not an option, I don't actually know the perfect answer for that, but I would definitely try and get together with, it depends on how big your team is. If your team is bigger than 6 people, you'd have to split it into multiple meetings, but if it's smaller than 6 people, I would get the team together and do your best to help them understand the benefits of what you're doing, right? Because if someone can feel like they understand themselves why something's important, it's significantly more likely that they'll commit to doing that thing rather than it being told to them, hey, do this thing. They're probably not going to do it. But if they can find a way, if you can find a way to make the connection for them that their life will be better if they do put in the time to read these instructions, and it's going to be better because we're going to reach our goals, things will be more smooth, you'll have more time, whatever it might be, then I think that's the way to frame that. I do think the approach would work, though, for building a design system. Having also gone through the process of building a design system and currently reworking a design system, it's the same kind of philosophy can apply.
Yeah, I also try to I relieve the pressure to be fast as much as I can. So
Mm,
especially with hourly workers like freelancers, usually you want to be as fast as possible. If you translate, like it's probably in your resume, like how quickly you translate. Um, so freelancers tend to think that fast is better. So I explicitly tell them you following the instructions exactly is more important than you getting work done quickly,
mm,
especially in the early stages. So don't worry about being fast, worry about being accurate to the instructions for now. And then, once they've internalized the instructions and they're doing everything to standard, yeah, then they will naturally be faster after that. But if they're not, then I can ask them like, why are you taking a long time compared to other people?
mm.
So that too. So I think most people want to do a good job. There's miscommunication a lot of times.
Let this be a lesson. Be an instruction reader. Honestly, kinda, right? Like
Yeah.
it's informative. Like there is such thing as bad instructions, and that can suck. But when the instructions are put together well, like honestly, take advantage of that. Like learn to identify good instructions versus bad instructions, and
Yeah.
follow the
Well,
good
even
instructions and iterate on them.
for hiring freelancers, the job post always has something specific you have to do when you apply, like when we post them. And over half of people don't follow the instructions right then. So it makes it really easy for us to not hire them because the job post said exactly what you should do to apply for the job. And you obviously didn't read it. So maybe you're not an instruction reader.
Mm,
So, or maybe you're just spamming job applications, which is also an indicator that maybe we don't want to hire you because you don't care that much about this job.
right. RTFM.
What's
I don't know
RTFM?
what it stands for, but in my head, that stands for read the fucking manual.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's what it actually means, but in this conversation, I think that's what it means. Oh, correct. Hell yeah. I don't know if I can say that. Can I say that stuff on our stream? I guess we can.
I think one of my what I can't think of words in English today. One of the things that I wanted to have before we even started doing this podcast was I wanted to have permission to be vulgar.
Yeah. Well, I know like it doesn't matter for Twitch. It doesn't matter for our YouTube stream. I just don't know if it matters for our uploading to like Spotify and Apple and stuff like that. Like, I don't think we're flagging
Yeah,
our podcast as explicit, and I don't know if those words. I mean, they might make it considered to be explicit, but I don't know. It's not like we
yeah,
swear often, so I don't think it's a concern. But if we did all of a sudden start being a lot more rambunctious, we might have to consider that. I don't know. Maybe
yeah.
someone listening knows more than me and can tell me.
Can you get really, really good at Japanese without starting to feel like curse words and swear words are kind of pointless and meaningless?
That's a really valid question because that's kind of like that happened to me. At a certain point, I was like, "Wait, these don't. This is ridiculous. What does this mean?" Like the better I got at
Right?
Japanese,
Because you see like the kid shows in Japan that have words that are getting translated in English into swear words,
right?
but it's like kids are watching it and they're still told like not to say rude stuff like that, but the word itself is not given this power.
Here's the thing about curse or swear words, whatever, is that they are a reflection of so like language and culture are like things that you can't remove from each other, right? They're the same thing. Language, culture, right? Same. Okay. So how severe a given word is will depend on the culture that it's in. And here's a really good point: is Saltok just said, as an Australian, curse words are already meaningless to me, and to a certain extent, that's kind of true in Australia versus somewhere like the United States, where people are a lot more, generally speaking, a lot more like, oh, let's maybe not swear so much. Um, Even though it's the same language, they're culturally viewed differently. So I think that has something to do with it.
Yeah, and my dad's a Kiwi, so I grew up in like to speak to that of like an Australian curse words are meaningless to him. My dad's from New Zealand and curse words were meaningless to me as I grew up
Yeah.
because like him and all of his friends like cussed a lot in front of me and I knew that I wasn't supposed to, and I didn't, but I was still around it.
Right. It's so I think it's like kind of like know your audience, honestly, on whether or not you should or shouldn't. Or just don't care. There's always that option too. And let the audience that doesn't mind come to you. That's an approach. But I definitely agree that there is this thing wherein the more you learn a language like Japanese, where they just don't have this concept as such a like black and white as it can often appear from a generalized sense in like an American culture or other English speaking cultures. You start to wonder anymore. It's like, okay, well, clearly rules are things that we just make up and tell ourselves to make societies function, and I guess that's life. Which is always true, but like I don't know, when you start living in another culture and you start learning about it and learning another language, you just that truth of reality, at least to me, becomes significantly more evident that our lives are essentially the stories that we tell ourselves, and that when you're in a other group of people, you're all just telling each other a story, and that's getting along in life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's true. It's just a story we tell ourselves to
Yeah.
a certain extent, obviously. Um,
Right. You know, it's a bit, I guess, philosophical, but sometimes reality. Actually, no. That actually, I think that is reality. It's just that sometimes how much we treat it like that or not depends on the situation. Hmm. That's what I got to say on that.
yeah. Anyway, I don't really have a filter for swear words, but I try to not do it that much in podcasts and things.
Yeah.
I especially avoid it if I'm like a guest in someone's podcast. Like I was a guest in, or I'm going to be a guest in like the Learn Japanese podcast. I think it'll come out like this Friday, maybe. I'm not sure. I have to ask Alex. But
Hmm.
like when I'm doing something like that, I do avoid swear words.
Right. It's
But
just when you're literally
I
on your
don't
own podcast.
around my family or friends or anyone.
Yeah. Um.
And I agree that they're filler, like Ty said in the chat. I think they are often just filler. Well, yeah, they can add some nice nuance to something.
So Bernard asks, beyond spoken languages, could or would NativShark also teach sign language in the future? I'm aware there are US, UK, and Japanese versions of sign language, presumably many more. I have no reasons not to teach sign language, so sure. Like if it makes sense in the future and we have the ability to do it. I mean, all these things, like to teach any new language, it costs money, right? So it just depends on where things are at. Like, do we have the capital to do it? And is there a market for it? And if there's not a market for it, is the capital cost to make that covered elsewhere in the business such that it's subsidized enough to be able to create a language that we know won't have as much of a market for it?
Yeah. Or if we determine that um, the market cannot justify the cost of creating it, maybe there's like a way to make a community created path or
Community
something
creative
like
path.
that. Yeah.
That's another good point. Especially once the curriculum builder is like a thing that can be used by other people than just
Yeah.
us.
I'm relatively certain that I would take a long time to learn sign language. It doesn't come naturally to me.
Mm.
I had an ex-girlfriend who was like learning American Sign Language, and she picks it up way faster than I did just looking at what she was doing. Um, I had a student once when I was teaching English who is a sign language interpreter for in Japan
Mm.
for things like the news. Sometimes if you watch the news in Tokyo, he'll be like standing next to the mayor or something. My
Yeah.
student doing his sign
Hey.
language. And when I asked him why he's studying English, he said because you can make a ton of money in Japan if you can simultaneously interpret from English to Japanese Sign Language. That's why he was trying to learn English.
Oh.
But when he said that, I was thinking, well, I could probably learn Japanese Sign Language faster than you could learn English, and I could just do that now. I was thinking.
Of
But
course.
I never did it. I don't want to mess with his grand scheme of becoming rich from doing simultaneous interpretation from English to Japanese Sign Language. But if someone is listening and they're a native English speaker, maybe you should learn Japanese Sign Language and then make lots of money being an interpreter on TV and stuff here in Japan.
Most interesting. But if sign language, insert any language, I mean, I'm interested in the possibility of teaching it if we have the means to do it. And if someone can, approach us and say that they have a way to make the means possible, then let's go. Like we have the technology. It's just, again, it's a matter of pulling together the resources to do it.
Yeah.
Someone was asking me about Indonesian, I think, like a month or so ago. They were like, the Indonesian travel board should pay. They were saying the Indonesian travel, it was a thread, and someone was saying the Indonesian travel board, because they want tourists, should pay a company to build out a good version of teaching their language, skewed for learning travel language first and then going out. And then someone came on that thread and then added NativShark, because they're like, hey, that's kind of what NativShark is doing for Japanese, and they have a system to do it. The Indonesian travel board should talk to NativShark. And then I came in and I was like, yes, they should. And that's the kind of thing, if there is outside interest in a vested party that wants to have it built, it's yep, we can make it happen. Again, it's just a matter of...
I would love the New Zealand government to pay us to teach Maori. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, same. That'd be dope. But for the time being, we're focusing on the economics of what we know and what we can do with our group. So, finally getting onto the topic.
Yeah.
New units are getting released for Japanese.
Yeah.
How often will we see new ones? I want to know.
I wish people wouldn't ask me that. Consistently. How about that?
It's a good answer, and I think that's all you should say on that.
Yeah, we published one on Monday, I think it was, and then
I think it was Tuesday.
I don't want to make any promises, but whatever. Well, it was Monday, but then I took it down because there was a bunch of technical issues arising that a few quick students got to experience firsthand. And then Tuesday we fixed it. But there'll probably be another one before the end of this week if all goes according to plan. And then, yeah, I think we should expect them to come out regularly every week. And then they'll get faster based on three things. One is our content management platform improving, which is what we're working on. We're sort of balancing things that we build for students and things that we build for our content management platform so that we can release content for students. Two is improved systems and standards, which is what we are working on as we make the units. I could publish them a little bit faster if I wasn't also making the instructions for doing everything I'm doing, but that would never be as fast. That would never be faster than any student could possibly learn, which is what we want.
Right.
So, improving the standards. And then third one is just we need more paying students so that we can hire more people to work on more content.
Yep.
Because even if I have the systems in place, I need to pay the people to actually do the work. So as students increase, units will come out faster, basically.
Yep. It, at the bottom line, comes down to economics, as most things do.
Yeah. I mean, we can get pretty fast, I think, with our current resources. But it'll just be so much better once we have more students, because we can get to that point where it's yeah, you could start anywhere in the NativShark core path and then you'll never catch up to us.
Right. If
which
anyone's
is the
wondering
dream.
what that number of students is, it's somewhere between 3 and 5,000 students, paying students, and we have 729 currently subscribed students. We have more than that because we had the lifetime sale, but that's not recurring revenue, so it doesn't count. That was just a one-time thing. So yeah, we have like 729 or so. Might be 749. I can't remember. Somewhere around there. Currently active subscriptions, and somewhere around the 3,000 to 5,000 mark is where it becomes a lot more economically viable to produce content at a faster rate. So we're doing what we can until we get up to that sort of critical mass sort of size when things can start clicking a lot more for those interested in the actual business
And our
feasibility.
tiny little team, celebrates every time one of you guys subscribe. It shows up in our private Discord channels, and
Yeah,
everyone,
it's fun.
reacts with little shark hearts. And we think very carefully about how we will spend those precious dollars on improving NativShark for everyone in the most efficient way.
100%. Yeah, we're operating very lean and increasingly so over time as we get better at running a business and that kind of a thing.
So yeah, units will come out.
Yeah,
And
phase 2
I'm
unit
pretty
8 was a nice
excited.
surprise
for
this
the
week,
phase two.
says Bernard.
Oh yeah, thanks Bernard. And I was looking because a lot of like units, like making a unit is a lot of work, as you might know, and then there's different stages to it happening. So, for example, the sentences and dialogues that appear in a unit are pretty much done for like the next 15, 16 units or so. So I can see the content that's going to be in there. It's just a matter of getting the voice actors to record things, getting the lessons written, getting the quality control checks on translations and everything else, planning stuff, putting it in the unit so a student experiences it in the correct way, so that the kanji have stroke order graphics and images and things like that. But anyway, I get to see what's coming, and every now and then I'll see like a lesson coming up, maybe phase 2 unit 19 or something. I'll see a lesson, and I'll think, there was one yesterday I saw, and I told Dre, like, I'm so glad you put this in an early phase 2 unit, because I was so late to learn this, and it's not even complicated at all. And she's like, her response was, "You still messed that up." It's like, well, thank you.
Thank you for that.
I'll study phase 2 units and I'll stop messing it up.
Right. On that point, someone said earlier when we were talking about like learning a language from another language, someone was like, I can't wait until I'm at the level of Japanese where I feel like I could study a third language. And that's probably somewhere around the end of phase 2 or an early phase 3 when you'd feel like, I'm pretty good at Japanese. Maybe I'll peek into another language a little bit. Because there's a lot of content coming up in phase 2. It's going to be a journey.
Yeah. It also depends on the level of discomfort you welcome in studying something from a different
100%.
source. So, like for me, studying Thai from Japanese, it doesn't really feel like anything. It's the same as studying it from English. But I used to try to do this, a long time ago, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And it was a little bit of a struggle, but even then it was kind of exciting that like I'm studying Japanese by studying something that's not Japanese, just because it's in Japanese. I used to be obsessed with those like manga de wakaru. It's like the book is like a manga that explains something like neuroscience or psychology, and then you read it in Japanese and it's a manga and it teaches you about that topic. I was obsessed with those because I felt like I'm finally learning about stuff that's not just Japanese, but I'm still getting better at Japanese.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you get to the level where you can just play video games and stuff all the time in Japanese, and suddenly video games are productive because
Towards language
it's not a
studies.
waste of time for me to watch these shows or play these games because it's in Japanese. I'm getting better.
It's never a waste of time anyway, sir. You need to take care of that mental health of yours and take some breaks.
Well, that too. I mean, I'm over here studying Thai 5 minutes a day for absolutely no reason other than that I find it enjoyable.
Wait, you're in your notes. You say 5 minutes per week. Is it five
Oh
minutes
yeah,
per
I
day
meant
or
per
five
week.
minutes
No,
per
no, no, no,
week?
no. I'm not putting any daily requirements on myself right now,
Yeah. Okay.
other than working on units for students.
Yeah. Well, cool.
I had a request for a meeting from
Yeah.
someone like earlier this week, and I told them I'm doing no meetings in February because I am focused on content.
Yeah, for sure. But like, I mean, it's pretty neat. It's coming out. It's coming out again, which is cool. And soon enough, there'll be a pace to it. And yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, I know there's some students out there who are doing like 3 new units a week just because they find it's a good pace for them.
Yeah, that's right.
So I have them in my sights initially, is like make sure we have enough content for them to just keep studying forever.
Right.
And then eventually we'll get up to the super students who are doing 2 units a day.
Yeah, it's I don't know what do you call it? A scalar growth pattern, I think is the right word. If we look at the graph, it's like starts slow and then goes up, but as like more students sign up, more content could be created. So then it's like a self um repeating feedback self-sustaining feedback cycle,
system or something.
something like that. Yeah. I don't know
It's the opposite of a
words.
vicious cycle,
Right.
which is akujunkan in Japanese, by the way. Literally bad cycle.
My master plan is to smash through the rest of phase 1 and catch up so I can relax with new content as it comes out and spend more study time consuming native material. But you started releasing new units and I still have a quarter of phase 1 to go. Hey, that's a good problem, sir. No need to
The race is on.
smash through. Just go at the pace that it makes sense to you. There really is no rush. There's no no need to feel in a hurry. It's a matter of, like we said many times,
Yeah.
staying consistent, keeping at it.
Yeah, the biggest rush is what you have to do to silence that voice in your head that's like telling you to stop.
All right, final question before we wrap up for our meeting that's always after this podcast.
Yeah. But I forget until one of us mentions it.
Right. Why is yojijukugo so hard for everyone to say?
Why indeed? So I'm quite. I put that in our notes for this because I just
Yeah.
want to know. Like, it's one of those words that everyone just can't remember how it's pronounced, and they know they can't remember it. Yojijukugo. So yojijukugo is 4 kanji idiomatic phrases in Japanese. I think it's unit 100 is where we teach them in phase 1,
I think so.
which is kind of nice. Unit 100 exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then like yo is 4, ji is character, juku is like connection, and then go is word. So it's literally 4 character connection word, yojijukugo. Not connection, like it means like consecutive.
I think it's more like
something
consecutive.
Like it's the word used in the phrase for phrasal verb in English. Phrasal verb is like something like that. Jukugo doshi or something. I don't remember what it's called. But I think there's this point where those strings of kanji in a row stop being so hard to remember. And I don't know when it happens. It probably just happens gradually at some point. But I remember when I was at a lower level of Japanese, just my brain would not see the kanji, but I could remember like that there's a word like yojijukugo that means what yojijukugo means. And then I just couldn't put out the string of characters needed to say it. And I remember once I was talking to a Japanese person and I wanted to say that I was preparing to take Nihongo no Ryokushiken. So like the JLPT in Japanese. And I said some weird like mess of characters, and she looked at me like, you shouldn't be taking any test in Japanese.
Oh man. Yeah, for me, this word is hard to say if I don't see it written. Like in my mind, it's not the same as what it actually is. But then, like when I see it written, it's like, wait, that's not hard to say at all. There's nothing complicated here.
Yeah, I think the jijuku is like kind of hard to say. Yojijukugo. Yojijukugo.
Yojijukugo. Iseki ni
Iseki ni cho.
Iseki ni cho is a nice logical one for English speakers, but I can never get others.
Yeah, and if you're listening, Iseki ni cho is killing two birds with one stone. So one stone, two bird is the kanji, the four kanji.
Mm-hmm.
Iseki ni cho. And it is the yojijukugo that we first teach in the lesson on yojijukugo in unit 100 of phase 1.
Yeah.
And I don't think I learned like any yojijukugo or knew that they were a thing until I was at a much higher level than that, which is ridiculous because like why not just teach it right away?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're so common too, so of course.
Yeah. Same with idioms. Like we have maybe 30 or so in phase 1. And I probably learned like 2 at that when I was at that level
Okay, here's the thing in general. Like
because
I've seen some of our students sort of interacting across the internet with Japanese, and I roughly know what level they are in phase 1, and I know roughly how long they've been studying Japanese, and every time I'm like, my God, these people are so much better than I was at that relative time. Like to a certain extent, like not even a certain extent. I mean, it's working. It's kind of wild. Like phase 1 is working. Like NativShark is doing its
yeah,
thing. It's like
I was
it's weird to step back and kind of see it like unexpectedly sometimes because I'm always like I'm in on it and I'm working all the time, but then to see it like in effect and see students making progress and actually being able to interact, I'm just like what? Okay, that's
yeah,
awesome.
I was working on a unit for phase 2 yesterday, and then I was doing something, and I turned to Ray, and I was like, I'm so jealous that our students get to have this at their level because I would have killed for some, like for example, the literal breakdowns on sentences.
Yeah.
I really, really need that for my Thai flashcards right now.
Mhm.
I desperately need it, and I never had it for Japanese, so I just didn't know like where does one word begin and another one end. What is the conjugation? What is happening and anywhere? How would you pronounce this if you said it? And yeah, I'm a little bit jealous that everyone else gets to study Japanese in a way closer to what I wish I could have.
Yep.
And yeah, Ty said he has a ton of difficulty with Korean because he doesn't have the literals. And I agree that like that's one of the main reasons I'm not that actively studying Korean, and one of the main reasons I'm waiting for NativShark is because I want literal breakdowns.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard for me in Korean to know what is going on. Like what word is what word?
Mhm.
And if there is an idiom, what are the words in it? How do I separate them?
Yeah. Well, it's just a matter of time. We don't know how much time, but it's scalar, like I was saying before, relative to how many students we get and at what pace we get them.
Yeah, you mentioned offhandedly that we're making a curriculum builder, and that's just the natural product of us wanting to build our content management platform
Right.
so that we can teach other things than Japanese. Because yeah, we talk a lot about like Korean and other languages because we have made this our system on the back end so that it can handle multiple subjects and multiple paths. And it wasn't that far to make the leap to where, well, we should just make it possible for other people to create paths to learn things as well, because
Yeah.
we're already setting things up so that it's possible so that we can teach Korean things. I have the systems ready. Like if we had enough students, we could start preparing the content for phase 1 Korean next week,
Yep.
like or English, whatever. Like where everything is being made with that in mind. Um, and last week, someone sort of jokingly said, "So the students of Japanese are like your guinea pigs," and sort of. I think I was the ultimate guinea pig of learning Japanese because
Yeah.
I all the painful experiments were done on me.
Mhm.
You're getting like the human trials. of the drug.
No, I think human trials would have been NihongoShark, honestly. I think at this
Okay,
point, I
okay,
think
yeah,
at
that's
this
good.
point we're
Yeah,
in like
that's
the
true.
the
Yeah,
phase 1 distribution of of like it's working and we're getting the positive results back.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Version 1 has been released to the public.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, it's again, like I've said a bunch of times today, it's like an iterative process and it takes time and um we'll get there. One thing at a time, which right now is getting units out and then it's, getting some improvements out to our platform. And alongside that, our curriculum builder is being built. And then when there is enough capital available for another language, we can step in that direction. And it'd be cool when we can release the curriculum builder as its own standalone product as well, so that people out there can. We don't know what the pricing will look like on that, but be able to sign up for that and then teach your own things. There's a lot of
Yeah.
uses for that software.
The takeaway being join the referral program and go tell other people to join NativShark.
Yes, this is our 5 minutes of promotion. Go sign up for NativShark and subscribe. Learn some Japanese.
My main reason for
support the
wanting to do a
project.
referral program is because you can see how many units and how many hours other people have studied because of you.
Yeah,
I really want to do that.
it's pretty fun.
Or I'll just only refer like my mom or someone, and then I'll just stalk her. And see how many
Then
hours
you'll
she
know.
studied. I'll
It's
just
too late, sir. Your
I
mom
can
already signed
I
up.
can. Oh, it's true. She already signed up. I
Shoot.
needed to harass her.
We can maybe manually link that up, but I don't really want to spend any time doing that for you. Sorry.
Whatever. I know what Cell Talks means when he says, "I've been trying but have a lack of friends interested in Japanese." I felt like I was studying Japanese. I felt like I was the only person in the world studying Japanese back when I started. So I feel what he means personally. It'll be easier to refer once we have other products, but yeah, I mean, if you are in like a Japanese group or something, like go for it.
Right. Convince your group to give it a go. But yeah, I was in a different situation when I was learning Japanese because I was surrounded by Japanese people and had friends who were also interested in learning. So just different situation for me. But I could understand regardless. I could empathize. I can't say that word. Empathize with what that is like. All right. On that note, let's finish up this session of the NativShark Podcast. It's why the NativShark community is so nice. Yes, because there's people to hang out with and talk about learning Japanese and all kinds of things. It's a fantastic place. NativShark.com/community. Come join us. Come hang out. I heard that there's a Minecraft server that's got started, which is pretty cool if you're into that kind of thing. So, all right. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Yeah.
Thanks for the chat.
Thank you for joining.
And see you next week.
See you.